this is the Sost Amba one.
Sost Amba, okay, the ancient...
So here, this is Sost Amba. Okay. And when you look at the elevation, so you're coming up, these are pathways that you can actually still see on Google Images. We're recording. So once you hit this line up here, this purple, okay. Once you get to the purple line, the let's see, the elevation is 2,800 meters.
Okay.
So above that, animals have a hard time breeding. Also, it's difficult to grow crops. So this is the first of the high mountains. Okay, and then there's a pass that comes through here that goes on up into Debre Libanos.
Okay.
Okay, and then this mountain continues, and that's where we have the first of the three. One, two, three.
Okay. When Berera was established, and what are the main city functions, when the period of the establishment, tell me the introduction.
The first time we start seeing it mentioned in European texts is the end of the 1300s into the 1400s.
Okay.
Now, because of the expansion of each of the Solomonic emperors down into, from Tegulet onto the Debre Burhan plain, etc., Berera is a trading center. Okay, so it actually encapsulates all of the trade that's coming up from the Rift Valley, from the south, from the east, from the west, and from the interior. So it's not necessarily just a huge metropolis, but it's the place where everybody came for commerce. So somebody like Zara Yacob in the early 1400s takes this as the commercial capital.
Oh.
Okay, so because of the way Ethiopian government was organized in the medieval period, you have a religious capital with the patriarch or the Mutran who comes down, and then you have also a administrative capital, and that administrative capital is where most of the commerce takes place, where the judicial system is, all these kinds of things. So Berera seems to have been that from that initial.
So it's not a capital city of the throne of the emperor?
It is, in a certain sense, yes. It is his capital, because, again, we have our mobile capitals moving around, but you don't have the entire population moving with him. You have administrators, you have some judicial, you have some religious, but the majority of people stay in one place. And that, Berera, is the name of the place that most people lived.
Yeah, of course, you can find the same places in close to Gondar.
Yes.
The Yacob also established his philosophical places.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
But according to the map from Fra Amaro in 1450, this is the largest medieval city in Africa, or at least sub-Saharan Africa. So
it's the largest medieval city in Eastern Africa and Horn of Africa.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, without question.
Okay. And the meaning of Berera means?
Well, one of the things, I mean, when we go to a site, we ask the local population what are the names for these areas, all right? And because it's right north of Mount Yerar, which is also where the patriarch lived. He lived in a castle up on Mount Yerar. Yerar, the name of the mountain in the region, Bar meaning gate. So if a Ethiopian is talking to a Ferengi or foreigner, they say, yes, it's called Bar Yerar. The guy hears Ba Yara, and he writes it as Berera. That's why it's not mentioned in any Ethiopian manuscripts.
Ber Yerar.
Ber Yerar.
Ber means gate.
Yes.
Yerar means?
The mountain. It's the mountain near Yerar.
Okay.
But Yerar also has a meaning. I have it written down somewhere. I forget, but it also has significance.
Yeah.
The traditional name for the site.
Forgiveness. Something.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's
forgiveness.
Yes, you're right.
Yerar.
Yeah, it's a place of like reconciliation.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is that the local name is still referred to as the gathering place of multitudes. a gathering place of multitudes. You go there now, and there are 3 or 4 little villages around.
Yeah, so this berera is the city, is the center of patriarch, place of in the 14th century.
Yes. Probably at the end of the 14th, end of the 15th century.
Mm-hmm.
But what's also significant about this is that on these maps, as they're indicated, so this is the religious capital, and here is a cross. Okay, and on the top of this, at the highest pinnacle, is also a cross.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also possible representations of mosques. So it was probably a mixed city, would be my guess. Okay, and over here, Tich is also a cross listed.
So in the city, in the 14th and 15th century, you found churches and mosques.
Together, yes. And even today, you can go to the village, and it's a mixed village.
Oh.
Christian and Muslim all together.
Yeah. Wow.
And the cemeteries there. Oh,
Ah.
absolutely amazing.
What are the archaeological evidences found here to say this is the center of the berera?
Well, when we refer to a site in terms of its archaeological potential, there are specific elements we look for. Architecture. Are there walls? And there are monumental walls. I mean, huge walls. Is there enough culture material? Broken pottery, occupational soil, so you can actually see that the soil changes when people live over a long period of time. There is a place where the ash layer is over 1.5 meters deep. Just the ash layer. Which means, that this is where either they dumped it, or this is the kilns, or this is the forges, or something.
Yes.
Okay.
In the ancient time, most of Ethiopians are engraved. There are precious materials like gold, silver, and ashes. Yes.
So the ash is the indication. If you have a very thin layer of ash, maybe 3-4 decades of occupation, 1.5 meters.
Okay.
I mean, that's huge. The other thing that the people mentioned in terms of the significance in the historical memory is that this was a city that was difficult to navigate. If you left your house, they say, you had a hard time coming back, because you could wander through the streets and these kinds of things. And you had to figure out where you are. It's kind of like Mercato today, you can get lost if you don't know, where is the textiles, where is the blacksmith? So you have to ask. If you lived there, you knew. But the significance is that it is almost 2 kilometers of continual culture material, which means there's pottery on the ground for 2 straight kilometers.
Yeah, this is also, of course, it's an old time and a long time of Ethiopian history. I saw similar example in Debre Tabor, which is the first Ethiopian technological industry during Emperor Theodorus II.
Yes.
Different types of iron materials, ashes, and the blacksmith places.
Yes, the making of the Sebastopol and all those things. Yes.
Sure.
What's also interesting is that the type of pottery that's represented indicates multiple cultural elements. Now, it doesn't mean that they were imported. It means that the people who came from various other regions made their pottery there. That would be my guess. Okay? Some of it is imported. I know this. The closest parallel that we find to some of the ceramics is the Christian Sudanese kingdom of Soba, which is right south of Khartoum. So the ceramics that came, or the ceramicists, the potterers who came, built the same kind of pottery. As Islam expanded down into Sudan, these Christians migrated into Ethiopia and brought with them the technologies of pottery. But this pottery now, this technology has been lost. There are still people making pottery. There's still a lot of clay pits where they dig out the pottery, but it's a very different quality. So,
yeah, that's good. How many seats are especially prestigious seats in Ethiopia still under earth or great?
On this map? Or mentioned in other contexts?
Mentioned in other contexts,
There are over 30 cities mentioned in the Zorzi itineraries and in various maps. In the Frau Moro, there are both Christian and Islamic city-states. So Ifat, Fatehgarh are for the Islamic. Yeah, I would say they're over 30.
Over 30.
Significant cities.
Oh, significant cities.
Yes.
On this map, how many cities are here?
On the large map?
Yeah.
Probably, well, if you include all the Islamic cities on the coast, there are close to 50.
Close to 50.
Yeah.
Islamic cities.
Islamic cities on the coast.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the interior, what they call Abbasia, which becomes Abyssinia, there are probably 25 in the interior.
No, what
So
about the
25
Christian
each.
cities?
Yeah, about 25 Christian cities.
25 Christian cities and 15 Islamic cities.
Well, no, I mean 50 altogether.
Okay, 50 altogether.
So 25 in the Islamic and 25 in the Christian.
Christians.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your recommendation on to excavate and find the true history of Abyssinia?
Well, my recommendation is that we find a multinational and multi-religious team.
Oh.
I mean, there are people in Ethiopia who are qualified in terms of histories, in terms of hopefully site analysis. There are not very many who are qualified to do actual excavation, but those things are easy to teach. Those things are easy. We can train people very quickly in that skill. The primary goal that I have is to bring, like I say, a multinational, multi-religious team, because we each see things from our own experiences and education. So for instance, if I'm excavating and I come across, small stones, they mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
But for somebody who understands maybe what we call either mystical religions or traditional religions, oh, this is significant. This indicates, a specific religion from, the 1400s that no longer exists. Whereas I throw it, they will see, no, this is very important for us. So it's the same thing. A Muslim scholar will see things differently than I will. A Ethiopian Orthodox will see things differently than I will. Someone from the far south will see things, this is from my culture. So to give you an example, when I was excavating in Israel, one of the sites we excavated had pottery that was very representative of southern Arabia and the southern Red Sea context from the 10th, 11th centuries BC. They had never seen this kind of stuff before. But because I had been in Yemen for 5 years, I recognized it. This is what we call cultic material. So the incense burners, the specific kinds of even deities that were represented in the archaeological evidence, that was all from southern Arabia. They didn't know that. But because I had been there, this is what that is. You then can go to look at the references, open up the books, there's an example. This is the exact same pottery. Look at that. And we can correlate it. So that's the kind of thing we need. That's why I say a multinational team. Okay, there are people who've excavated in Soba, in the Christian kingdom of Soba. In Sudan. They would be wonderful to come and pick up these pieces of pottery and say, this is what we saw. This is 12th, 13th century. This is 15th century. We can see that transgression. So it's all there. But we just need scholars who are able and willing to come and do that for us.
Yeah, that's good.
And permits.
Permits, so yeah, sure. Closing the door is not a solution, and also closing door is not a protection. Open up the spaces for investigation and research is the only solution for.
I agree.
To research for the next generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.